Is it possible to recreate a near-death experience under hypnosis? Indirect method study published in a scientific journal. Are lucid dream masks quackery? And other news. Welcome to Phase Today. This is the first news media about lucid dreams, sleep paralysis, and other phase states. Are you ready? Is it possible to recreate a near-death experience under hypnosis? Near-death experiences, or NDEs, are of great interest to science. However, the difficulty in studying them lies in the fact that they are based on subjective memories. To overcome this issue, scientists have even tried to make virtual simulations of NDEs using VR to recreate them in the laboratory. However, the most obvious way to restore deep memories of clinical death is hypnosis. In a hypnotic state, people experience signs of an altered state of consciousness, from warped time perception to out-of-body experiences. Thus, a hypnotic state can simulate near-death experiences in and of itself. In an experiment conducted by Belgian scientists led by Charlotte Marchal, 5 volunteers under hypnosis managed not only to recall their near-death experiences, but also to feel the sensations of undergoing them. They felt a sense of peace and out-of-body projection similar to actual NDEs. 3 of the participants scored 7 points on the Grayson scale, which indicates that their experiences qualified as an NDE. The results provide interesting perspectives for studying this phenomenon under controlled conditions. Do you think it is possible to relive a real phase state under hypnosis? The study was published in 2019 in Scientific Reports Journal. Indirect method study published in a scientific journal. The indirect method, that is, entering a lucid dream or out-of-body experience immediately upon awakening and without losing consciousness, is one of the most effective phase induction techniques. At the same time, the official academic literature has ignored this technique, despite the fact that it is even mentioned in the Tibetan Dream Yoga. Michael Raduga from the Phase Research Center decided to correct this significant gap by presenting for the first time a detailed description of the indirect method to the scientific community. He talks about a variation of the indirect method that includes the techniques of separating from the body and creating a phase alternate on awakening. The effect is achieved thanks to the hypnopompic hallucinations that we see when we wake up. In the article, to substantiate the effectiveness of the algorithm, the results of face-to-face training in the technique were used. 484 successful attempts by 449 volunteers over 2 nights. A brief overview of the algorithm. Number 1. Create an intention when falling asleep. Number 2. Upon awakenings, try to separate from the body, imagining that you are getting up, levitating, or falling down. Number 3. If this does not work, try alternating the techniques of creating hypnopompic hallucinations for a minute. Picture images in front of your closed eyes. Imagine the sensation of swimming or holding some object in your hand. If it works, you are in a phase state. Number 4. Regardless of the result, fall asleep with the intention of trying again upon the next awakening. The side effect is lucidity in dreams. According to the author Michael Raduga, the indirect method is likely to prove very popular in many future studies. But there is also very little awareness of the direct method in the scientific community. We are currently working on fixing this. Incredibly, science has only paid attention to the popular phase induction methods. How many years ahead of the scientists are you? The study was published in January 2021 in the International Journal of Dream Research. Are lucid dream masks quackery? The British site The Independent, in a recently published article, notes the increase in public interest in lucid dreaming over the past year by 90%. The supply on the gadgets market is also growing in direct proportion, up by 250% compared to 2019. However, are such gadgets really effective? Researchers analyzed the device market to come up with a conclusion. Since the advent of devices such as the Dreamlight released back in the 1990s, not much has changed. Typically, lucid dreaming devices are equipped with a sensor to detect the stage of REM sleep. If detected, the dreamer receives a signal that he is in a dream, using light indicators, sound, or tactile stimuli. There are plenty of such devices on the market, including Aurora, REMI, REM Dreamer, ZMax, Neurone, iBand, Lucid Catcher, and Aladdin. All of the above gadgets are afflicted by the same common problem: the lack of accuracy in determining the onset of REM sleep, which is why the devices do not work properly or reliably in most cases. Some of them have not been subjected to scientific testing, and most importantly, none of these devices can be considered completely safe. For example, Lucid Catcher and Aladdin use transcranial brain stimulation, which, according to recent reports, can cause unintended consequences. Others use lithium batteries, which can overheat or explode next to the user's heads. In terms of devices able to reliably induce lucid dreaming straight out of the box, I would say there is nothing at the moment, comments one of the authors of the article, neuropsychologist Achilles Pavlou. He encourages users to be wary of promises to induce lucid dreams easily or without using special techniques. The article was published in 2019 in Frontiers in Neuroscience magazine. Do out-of-body experience improve memory? In 2020, a team of researchers led by Konstantinos Daltsis conducted a curious experiment to recreate the illusion of out-of-body experience, or OBE, using 3D imaging and acoustic stimulation. The scientists wanted to test the hypothesis of whether OBE affects our emotional memory. To answer this question, scientists took 44 volunteers and divided them into two groups, an OBE group and a control group. The participants were asked to view a series of images with different emotional connotations: neutral, negative, and positive. To induce OBE, the authors used video recording, which allowed the participants to see themselves from the side on the screen and hear the sounds produced by touching their body. Thus, they identified themselves with the image from the outside. During the procedure, they were asked to look at the pictures again and recognize the ones they had already seen. The results of the experiment showed that participants who entered the illusion of OBE performed better at tasks of recognizing emotional patterns. Thus, out-of-body experiences were found to improve emotional memory. Given the similarities between OBE and lucid dreaming, this discovery may also be useful for phase practitioners. The study was published in 2020 in Psychology, the Journal of the Hellenic Psychological Society. Do lucid dreams affect attention? Mindfulness is directly related to the function of attention. This property has been studied in several scientific experiments. In an article published in January 2021 in Frontiers in Psychology magazine, researchers at National Central University in Taiwan shared data from a new experiment to assess attention in lucid dreaming practitioners. 77 participants assessed their dream lucidity for a week and then completed a task that measured their attention. The Attention Network Test, or ANT, is a task that evaluates three attention components: alertness, orientation, and control. Volunteers are asked to perform a test on a computer, during which they must point to the correct direction of the target arrow. In this case, the arrow was surrounded by confusing figures. The participants' response time was then estimated for each test item. The experiment results showed that the lucidity of dreams does affect various aspects of attention processing, for example, when solving conflict problems. Thus, the higher the level of awareness developed in the state of sleep, the more dynamic it is in the waking state, and the more effectively the participant can cope with conflict tasks. This proves once again that lucid dreams contribute to developing our mindfulness. How men and women experience sleep paralysis. In a study published in 2020 in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, have been found interesting data on gender differences in the experience of sleep paralysis. The study was based on a survey of 439 Polish students. As it turned out, the prevalence of sleep paralysis among Polish students is high, 32%. Most of them reported experiencing an elevated heart rate during episodes, as well as accompanying fear and visual hallucinations. Most of the volunteers in the study were female, 75%. Interestingly, no association was found in women between the number of recurring episodes and the severity of anxiety, unlike men. Also, the amount of sleep appeared to have no effect on the number of seizures per year for women, whereas for men, this was not the case. Perhaps these data will lead to a more comprehensive study of gender differences in the assessment of this phenomenon. As you can see, our topic is actively developing. In order not to miss new discoveries, right now subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media, where we publish news daily. All links are in the description. See you next week.